Okay, let's jump into this zero trust idea. The core concept, never trust, always verify, sounds simple enough, right?
Right? It sounds good on paper. But the tricky part is the verify bit. How do you verify access if you don't really truly understand what you're supposed to be protecting, especially all that data?
Exactly. And you look at the numbers, something like what, $12.5 billion in reported cybercrime losses just in 2023?
Yeah, it's huge. It tells you loud and clear that the old ways, the traditional perimeter defenses, they just aren't enough anymore.
So zero trust is basically essential now, but making it actually work. That's where this data visibility thing becomes a real roadblock.
Uh-huh. And that's the core challenge our sources are digging into for this deep dive. They look at it specifically through the lens of a platform called Cognni.
Right, Cogni. So our mission here is to unpack what the sources say about Cogni's approach, focusing on how understanding your data better, gaining that intelligence, is key to making zero trust actually stick for you.
Okay, so the sources really emphasize this point. The biggest hurdle isn't always the zero trust policy itself. It's more about not having the intelligence about your own data.
You mean you can set up all the verification checks you want?
Exactly. But if you don't know there's critical, sensitive data hiding in, say, some forgotten SharePoint site, or maybe just sitting on someone's laptop.
Then your policies are kind of working in the dark, aren't they?
Precisely. Effective zero trust fundamentally relies on accurate, comprehensive data intelligence. You need to know what you have.
And that's where Cogni comes in, according to the sources, using AI.
Yeah, that's the angle. It's using AI not just to find keywords, but to try and automate that whole discovery process. Finding the data, understanding the content, classifying it, analyzing the risk.
And crucially, without needing people to manually tag everything, because that never scales.
Right. That's a key point they make. And it works across different places. Cloud storage, endpoints, those collaboration tools we all use. Basically, wherever your data happens to live.
Okay, so let's break that down. How does this AI-driven data understanding actually help with a zero trust strategy? What's the tangible benefit?
Well, first off, it automatically figures out what sensitive or business critical information you actually have, that discovery piece.
Finding the needles in the haystack?
Kind of, yeah. And then it continuously monitors the risk associated with that data based on how it's actually being used and shared, not just static rules about where it's stored.
Ah, so it looks at behavior. That sounds like it could help with insider threats, too, maybe spotting unusual activity.
Definitely. The sources mention that. Things like, someone's suddenly downloading way more customer data than usual. The AI learns baseline behaviors and flags those weird deviations.
Moving beyond simple rules to actual risk signals.
Exactly. And with that real-time context, knowing the data's value, seeing how it's being used, you can then apply your zero trust controls like DLP or access policies much more effectively, much smarter.
So it's like giving your security tools the why behind the data, not just the what. Does it help downstream too, like with incident response or compliance?
Yeah, both. For incidents, it means you can quickly get context on what sensitive data might be involved in an alert. Speeds things up.
Makes sense.
And for compliance, think GDPR, APA, it gives you automated insights into where that regulated data actually resides, which is often a huge manual effort otherwise.
Okay, let's connect this back to those core zero trust principles.
Yeah.
How does this approach help with verify explicitly?
Well, by looking inside the documents, understanding the content beyond just a file name or a basic label, it verifies what's actually in there.
Got it. And least privilege, that seems like a natural fit.
Absolutely. The automated classification feeds directly into policy engines. The sources mentioned Microsoft Purview as an example.
Oh, yeah.
There was a case study, a bank, where Cognni helped automate Purview labeling for their critical data. And they saw up to a 500% increase in labeling coverage for sensitive stuff.
Wow, 500% just through automation. That's significant for applying least privilege accurately.
It really is. That granularity is key. Then there's assume breach and segmentation.
How does data intelligence help there?
By mapping out where your sensitive data is and who uses it, you get the intelligence you need to actually segment effectively. You can build tighter controls around your crown jewels.
So if a breach happens, the blast radius is smaller.
That's the idea. Limit lateral movement. And finally, continuous monitoring.
How does Cogni fit that?
It basically turns your data itself into an active sensor. The real-time dashboards, the alerts on weird activity like that risky download or unusual sharing, it's constantly checking data usage against your expected zero trust posture.
And the sources also mentioned it's easy to set up. That's often a big barrier.
Yeah, that came up. Like a 5-minute setup, no agents needed, works pretty much out of the box. The aim is saving tons of manual hours, getting you that complete visibility, and hunting down those hidden data risks.
It sounds like it's designed to complement existing tools, not replace them.
Right, it provides that missing intelligence layer.
So wrapping this up for you, the listener, what's the main takeaway?
I think it's that this kind of data intelligence, like what Cognni aims to provide, is becoming foundational for zero trust. It bridges that gap between technical security policies and actually understanding the business value and risk associated with your data at scale.
Which really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Does your current security setup truly understand the data it's trying to protect? Or is it just enforcing rules kind of in the dark?
Because zero trust, especially when powered by deep data intelligence, really suggests that modern security needs to become fundamentally data aware. It has to understand the data,